Welcome back to the deep dive. If you really look closely at pretty much any major success story, whether it's in finance, complex engineering, even art, you find this kind of invisible thread connecting them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just raw IQ, it's definitely not luck, or even having, better information than anyone else.
Right.
It seems to be this sheer ability to think clearly, to question things, and, crucially, to respond to uncertainty better than everyone else.
That's exactly it, that invisible force. It's critical thinking. And what we found looking into this is, well, most people are never really trained to use it properly.
Really? We're not taught this?
Not explicitly. We're generally trained to follow instructions, right? Memorize facts, obey the norms of our culture or workplace. And this leaves the mind, which is, let's face it, the most powerful tool we have, kind of running on default setting.
Just repeating cycles.
It's often repeating the same ineffective cycles, yeah.
Okay, let's dig into that straight away. Because when we talk about critical thinking or CT, we're not just talking about being logical in a, dry academic way.
No, not at all.
The sources we looked at frame it more as clarity, the ability to actually distinguish what seems true from what really is true.
Precisely. And that's our mission today, really, to give you, the listener, a kind of mental blueprint to get that clarity. Because success, ultimately, it doesn't come down to how much information you can gather.
Quantity isn't the key.
No, it's the quality of your interpretation of that information. That's the fundamental shift we're aiming for here, moving you from just, automatically reacting to life.
Which is easy to do.
Very easy. And instead, starting to consciously design it.
I like that phrase, consciously designing it. So, okay, let's define the critical thinker. If they're the architect of success, what does that actually look like day to day? What's the defining trait?
I'd say the defining characteristic is the pause.
The pause.
Yeah. While everyone else is jumping in, reacting, arguing, maybe making a gut decision based on what feels comfortable right now.
Getting that immediate relief.
Exactly. The critical thinker chooses a moment of, let's call it, internal silence. They ask questions when everyone else has gone quiet. And crucially, they're always prioritizing the long-term, sometimes uncomfortable, logical gain over that immediate short-term comfort of a quick emotional reaction.
Okay, that sounds straightforward, but isn't that internal silence incredibly hard to achieve when you're actually under pressure? If I'm facing a huge deadline or there's a conflict brewing, my instinct is just react, go fast.
Oh, it absolutely is difficult. It takes real courage, actually. But the successful people, the ones highlighted in our sources, they mastered this. They understand that while, yeah, emotional reactions might give you temporary validation.
Like snapping back at someone or jumping on a market trend.
Right, that feels good for a second. But only logical, evaluated responses create permanent, sustainable results. And this isn't just basic logic 101. It's about applying deeper mental tools, like first principles thinking.
Breaking it down.
Exactly. Breaking the problem down to its smallest, undeniable facts, instead of just relying on, say, faulty analogies or assuming things worked the same way last time.
So, if they're operating more on facts and evaluated responses, they must handle setbacks differently, too. If, emotional reactions often come with a fear of failure, how do clear thinkers approach mistakes? Do they just try harder to avoid them?
Actually, quite the opposite. They tend to learn from failure faster.
Faster? How?
Well, critical thinkers don't see failure as some kind of personal indictment. I'm a failure. Instead, they manage to transform it into data.
Data. Oh.
Highly specific, usable information.
Can you give me a concrete example of that, how that transformation works?
Sure. Think about maybe a project that failed or a bad investment. An emotional thinker might say, oh, I'm so unlucky, or I'm just stupid. They personalize it, right? They internalize the chaos.
Yeah, I can see that.
The critical thinker, though, tries to isolate the variables. They'd say something more like, okay, I lost money because I ignored metric X, or the project failed because the communication plan broke down right here at step 3. See the difference?
Yeah, they're isolating the cause, not blaming themselves.
Exactly. They isolate the variable, not the self. And that specific act transforms the stress into a workable strategy. It turns that confusion into a clear direction for the next attempt.
Okay, so critical thinking is the goal, the solution.
Yeah.
What's the core problem then? What are we fighting against? You mentioned the material calls it the fog.
Yeah, the fog. It's essentially the illusion of thinking. Most of us, most of the time, walk around convinced we're actively processing information, making decisions.
When really
When really we're often just repeating internalized scripts. things society told us, things our parents believed, maybe even just whispers from our own deepest fears. Real thinking, conscious thinking, is actually quite rare.
And uncomfortable.
And inherently uncomfortable, yes.
Hmm.
Because it forces you, first and foremost, to challenge the cozy comfort of your own existing mental world.
So what's the danger then of staying in that fog, operating on autopilot?
Well, you become highly controllable, for one. If you aren't thinking critically for yourself, you're essentially giving away your intellectual power.
Hmm.
You become, in a sense, a puppet of opinions, easily swayed by the latest trend, easily polarized by emotional posts on social media, and ultimately unable to make clear, independent decisions because your internal filters are just too thick with assumptions and biases.
That really explains the fog metaphor perfectly. It's like we're seeing the world, but not as it is, but through our specific version of reality, filtered through all those automatic experiences, emotions, assumptions we've picked up.
Precisely. And our brains naturally seek cognitive ease. They love shortcuts. So if a belief is handed to us maybe from family or culture, it's just easier to accept it than to spend the mental energy required to really test it.
And that's the difference you're drawing between believing and thinking. Believing is easy, automatic.
Automatic, yeah. Often based on trust or just sheer repetition.
But thinking is earned. It's deliberate, analytical. It takes work.
Absolutely. I mean, think back through history. Every major leap forward for humanity wasn't made by someone who just comfortably accepted the status quo, the established beliefs.
Right.
Progress was driven by thinkers, people like, say, Galileo, who dared to challenge what literally everyone else accepted about the universe, about the heavens. His clarity wasn't just about seeing stars better. It was about choosing mathematical observation and hard evidence reason over the established church doctrine, which was based on belief and repetition.
Wow. Okay, but that moment where you have to look at an idea you hold really deeply, maybe something core to your identity, and ask yourself, is this really true? Or have I just never seriously questioned it before? That sounds, well, terrifying.
It can be.
You risk tearing down your whole understanding of things.
And that's why courage is such an integral part of critical thinking. It's not just intellectual horsepower. If you never question your own thoughts, those very thoughts become your self-imposed limits, your prison bars.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be willing sometimes to walk away from that comfortable certainty and embrace the vulnerability of just asking why.
Okay, so how do we get past that fear, that terror even, and actually start building this mental discipline? Let's get practical. What's the foundation of clarity?
It really starts with step one, awareness. Simple as that. Awareness acts like a light, exposing the often messy, chaotic patterns already running in your mind.
How they operate.
Yeah. You need to get better at identifying your emotional triggers, your default reaction habits, what makes you instantly angry or defensive or likely to agree without thinking.
And the sources gave a really handy, immediate tool for this, the 5-second pause. Simple name, but I suspect it's incredibly powerful in practice.
It's the ultimate pattern interrupt for that mental autopilot. Before you hit send on that angry text, right? Before you click buy on impulse, before you commit to a big decision, just pause. 5 seconds.
It's just 5 seconds.
And in that little gap, ask yourself 3 key questions. 1, why am I really choosing this? 2, what specific emotion is influencing me right now? And 3, am I just reacting here or am I consciously responding?
That distinction feels crucial, reacting versus responding. It makes me think of, those studies where people send an angry email late at night and instantly regret it in the morning.
Perfect example. That's skipping the pause.
Yeah.
See, unexamined thoughts and unmanaged emotions, they control us. Awareness, even just for 5 seconds, breaks that automatic control loop by forcing you to actually name the underlying emotion or assumption driving the bus.
Which brings us neatly to step 2, balancing emotion and reason. Because we're not trying to become emotionless robots here, are we? Emotions are signals. They're useful.
They're incredibly powerful signals, yes, but they are not solutions in themselves. The critical thinker has to learn to feel deeply acknowledge the emotion, but decide wisely.
So contrast that for me, emotional thinking versus rational thinking in that context.
Okay, emotional thinking might sound like, I feel really frustrated right now, so this whole plan must be fundamentally wrong.
Right, the feeling dictates the conclusion.
Exactly. Rational thinking guided by critical thought says, okay, I feel frustrated. That's important data. Now let me understand why this frustration arose before I decide my next action. We let the emotion inform the decision-making process, but we never let it make the final decision for us.
Got it. Okay, and step 3 was the power of perspective. This is about adjusting the lens,
Yeah.
right? Avoiding that tunnel vision we can all fall into.
Yes, and this is absolutely key for building resilience. Think of that puzzle piece analogy.
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
When a single puzzle piece is right up close to your face, it just looks random, jagged, maybe meaningless. But when you step back, zoom out.
You see how it fits into the bigger picture.
Exactly. Clear thinking allows you to perform that mental zoom out, to see the larger pattern that might be hiding behind the immediate discomfort or chaos of the moment.
And that zoom out capability is what shifts you from feeling like a victim, asking, why is this awful thing happening to me?
Right.
To asking something more constructive, like, okay, what is this situation teaching me? What's the function of this difficult piece in the larger puzzle of my life or project?
That shift in questioning is profound. It genuinely turns pain into potential purpose. It helps you maintain your intellectual power and composure when others around you might be crumbling under the same stress. It doesn't magically remove the difficulty, of course.
No, reality is still reality.
But it reveals the hidden solutions or the path forward that was obscured by the initial emotional reaction.
Okay, let's pivot then to making this a lifestyle, the thinker's lifestyle. We've established the brain loves shortcuts, that automatic thinking is the enemy of clarity. So we have to actively break that habit of just going with the mental flow, the easy path. How do we embed critical thinking into our daily routine?
Well, a big part is consistently challenging certainty. That automatic thought, the one that says, oh, this approach worked before, so it must work again, that needs scrutiny.
Oh, you interrupt it.
You interrupt it. The critical thinker asks, okay, it worked before, but what variables have changed since then? Is the context the same? Will it work now? It's this constant orientation towards seeking the current truth over comfortable assumptions.
All right, so let's list those 4 daily habits the source has really highlighted. Maybe we can discuss the why behind each one. First up, writing your thoughts down. Why is getting them out of your head and onto paper or a screen so vital?
Because thoughts are messy when they're just swirling around inside. They loop, they get tangled with emotions. Writing them down creates distance, objectivity.
You can see them clearly.
You can literally see your biases, your assumptions, the weak points in your logic laid out right there. It separates the emotion, which is often hot and confusing, from the logic, which needs cool structure. It prepares them for, well, cold, hard analysis.
Makes sense. Okay, habit number 2, question certainty. Specifically, when you feel absolutely sure about something, actively seek out evidence that challenges your view. That feels counterintuitive.
It does, but it's your best defense against confirmation bias. Our tendency to only notice information that supports what we already believe. Certainty often feels good, but it can be a disguise for intellectual laziness. So if you find yourself feeling 100% certain about, say, a political stance or a business strategy or even a personal judgment, you need to actively hunt down the strongest, most intelligent argument against your position.
And what happens then?
Well, if your original idea can withstand that robust challenge, great, it's stronger for it. If it starts to crumble under scrutiny, even better, you've just improved your thinking before risking a real-world failure based on a flawed assumption.
Okay, number 3 is also powerful. Seek intelligent disagreement. Actively engage with people who don't see things your way.
Yes, because true thinkers, deep thinkers, learn infinitely more from informed disagreement than they do from easy agreement. Agreement just confirms what you already know.
Right, it feels good but doesn't teach much.
Exactly. Disagreement, especially with someone smart who has different information or perspective, refines your thinking. It shows you the blind spots in your own mental map. You should actively seek out people who challenge you respectfully.
And the final daily habit, reflect. Specifically, take time each day, maybe before sleep, to ask yourself some key review questions.
Yes. Just 5 minutes can make a huge difference. Review the day and ask, what did I assume today that maybe I should have verified? Or, looking back, did I think clearly in that meeting, or did I react emotionally? This kind of consistent, non-judgmental reflection is how you deepen awareness and actually internalize these better thinking patterns.
This whole practice feels more relevant now than ever before. We're drowning in information, AI is generating content.
Yeah.
It can be easily manipulated.
Absolutely.
And our sources were really clear on this. The rarest and therefore most valuable skill in the near future will be the ability to genuinely think through all that noise. Machines can compute, they can process data at lightning speed.
But humans connect, humans interpret, humans evaluate with depth, nuance, and ethical consideration. Critical thinking is becoming the essential compass to navigate the information age, to cut through the misinformation, and to lead with authentic intelligence and insight.
Which brings us perfectly to our challenge for you, the listener. We're calling it the 7-day challenge. This is where you stop just, passively hoping for more clarity and start actively training your mind like an athlete trains their body. It needs conscious reps for 7 straight days.
And remember those 3 core pillars we discussed?
Yeah.
For the next 7 days. Every single time you feel that rush of strong emotion, you feel triggered, you must pause. Just 5 seconds.
Pause it.
Every time you encounter new information, especially if it feels significant or surprising, you must verify. Check the source, look for underlying data or evidence. Don't just accept it.
Verify. Okay.
And every time you find yourself holding on to a strong belief or opinion, especially one you feel certain about, you must analyze. Briefly examine the reasons why you hold that belief. Is it based on evidence or assumption?
Pause. Verify. Analyze. That's the core workout for the next week. The goal here is to actively move yourself from that state of mental fog and confusion to one of clarity, from knee-jerk reaction to deliberate reflection.
Because the mind that truly learns to think clearly, it becomes, well, almost unstoppable. It stops seeing problems as just chaos or bad luck.
And start seeing them as
Data. Data waiting to be organized, understood, and ultimately solved.
So let's leave our listeners with a final thought to chew on.
Okay, here it is. Critical thinking isn't just some dry intellectual exercise. At its heart, it requires profound personal courage. Yes, the courage sometimes to stand alone in your assessment, the courage to disagree respectfully with the majority opinion, the courage to question what everyone else simply accepts as obvious truth. Thinking differently isn't just rebellion for its own sake. It's actually the necessary fuel for human evolution, for progress.
Wow.
And the ultimate foundation underpinning all of clear thinking is integrity. Personal integrity. The courage to stay honest with yourself, first and foremost, even when that honesty forces you to maybe rebuild your entire understanding of something important.
That's powerful. The revolution starts inside.
Exactly. The greatest revolution doesn't kick off in the markets or in new technology. It starts right between your ears, in your own mind.
So the message is clear. Stop living on mental autopilot. Start living by conscious choice. Stop reacting. Start reasoning. Stop just following the crowd. Start thinking for yourself. That's the real power we aim to unlock today.